Hello and welcome to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and as you saw from the thumbnail, today we're talking about divorce. And I found this really interesting few bits of information that I didn't actually know, or I had read them at one point in time but didn't actually remember. And so I thought, I might share those with you guys and see what you guys think. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to drop a like on the video. There's a reason that people always ask you to drop a like on the video, because it helps it get out to more people on YouTube. So if you do enjoy this content and you think that other people would enjoy it as well, make sure you hit that like button. It literally takes 1 second. Finger guns, intro, ZZ's here, let's go. Alright, so first off, I just want to have, I guess, a trigger warning. I'm talking about divorce. We're going to go into subjects about marital abuse and things of that nature. So if you have dealt with that in the past, if you're currently dealing with that, there are resources that can help you. I actually think, a few here in my notes. Yeah, if anyone is going through any domestic abuse of any kind, basically, if you want to know what domestic abuse is, if you walk into your door and say, I'm uncomfortable, there's a reason for that. There's not anything that you are doing that's making you uncomfortable or scared or fearful of your spouse. So if you are in America, you can call 1-800-799-7233. That is a domestic abuse hotline. And yeah, just know that if you're being abused by your partner in any way, that you haven't done anything wrong other than get help. Get help now. Do it, because it's not okay. And every instance that I hear of when someone stronger, more powerful in any circumstance is taking advantage of someone else, I find it disgusting, despicable, and it's a crime. It's a crime. It's a crime. Get help that you need. Make sure you're protected. Make sure that you are very safe. And I just wanted to put some of that stuff out there. Straight away. So I went and was trying to compile a video, which I will be doing, about all of the funny, goofy things that the Watchtower has said about sex, because they have some real whoppers out there. And as I was going through, I came across a few things that I found really fascinating, and so it kind of shifted my focus, and I wanted to talk about specifically divorce. So we have one of those classic instances of the new light coming at like speed run times. So this one is 11 months. So they have, new light or, an adjustment, and then bang, they just jump right in, and 11 months later, they do a 180-degree flip from it. Again, that's not an adjustment. I mean, that's literally saying, hey, we were wrong. Let's correct this. So a classic Watchtower flip-flop. This one is from a Watchtower in 1972. This is the January 1st. It's a question from readers, and the question is, do homosexual acts on the part of a married person constitute a scriptural ground for divorce, freeing the innocent mate to remarry? And it says this: homosexuality is definitely condemned in the Bible as something that will prevent individuals from gaining God's approval. However, whether an innocent mate would scripturally be able to remarry after procuring a legal divorce from a mate guilty of homosexual acts must be determined on the basis of what the Bible says respecting divorce and remarriage. Now, when I first saw this question, I thought that they would just come out like straight away and say, well, yes, pornea is pornea is pornea is pornea is pornea is pornea. And definitely, you would be able and free to remarry. But I was completely shocked. like completely shocked by what they go on to do. So they go and talk about what porneia really means, and essentially they come to this conclusion that when it's talking about fornication and in the way that Jesus is using porneia at Matthew 5:32 and Matthew 19 verse 9, that it's basically talking about sexual relations with a natural sexual partner as the Bible sees it. So they don't see any room here for there to be a natural inclination for a gay or lesbian person to have sex. Okay, cool. Well, not cool. You guys know what I mean by that. So anyway, at the end of the questions for readers, it says, while both homosexuality and bestiality are disgusting perversions, in the case of neither one is the marriage tie broken. It is only broken by acts that make an individual one flesh with a person of the opposite sex other than his or her legal marriage mate. So this is the funny portion of the video, so we can ha-ha right now, because the later portion will be a little more serious. But imagine, the Watchtower came out in 1972 and said, okay, people, if you married someone that was a closet homosexual, right, and you found out that they were basically having a fling on the side, right? You would not be, in the Watchtower's eyes, free to remarry. And what that means for people that don't know is free to remarry is just a way of saying, okay, well, you won't get disfellowshipped by starting a relationship with another one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So if you are a good, clean, doing everything right Jehovah's Witness, and you find out that your marriage partner is a closeted gay or lesbian or homosexual, gay or lesbian person, and then you say, well, I want a divorce because this is disturbing. You cannot do that. And if you do, you would be disfellowshipped. You'd be shunned by everyone that you know. You'd be kicked out of the religion and have to go through this year-long process at minimum of absolute hell to get back in to the organization. Now, the other interesting thing going on here is that they lump in homosexuality with bestiality. So homosexuality is consensual, and if it's not, then that's rape. So we would call it rape. So we're just assuming that it is consensual. Bestiality cannot be consensual. You cannot talk and ask permission to do it with a duck or a horse or a dog. You can't. So the fact that they lump those two together is pretty wild. But imagine being in the position where you find out that your mate is an actual sick criminal, right? And has been having sex with your dog. So you find out, or you catch your partner, and you find out that they've been having sex with your dog. Okay? You do, in the eyes of Watchtower, if you are a Jehovah's Witness, you are not legally, and according to their eyes, legally able to remarry someone else. So if, for whatever reason, you left and filed for divorce because you realized you were married to a sick criminal that was, having sex with your dog, you could not, in Watchtower's mind, remarry someone else. You would just have to be celibate and single for the rest of your life because they didn't commit adultery. So that was what this 1972 Watchtower was proposing. This didn't last very long, because in 1972, in December, there's another questions for readers in which they completely flip-flop what was going on here. So they say, we find principles in the law covenant in support of this broadened viewpoint. It is clear that under that law, marriages were dissolved when a mate committed serious sexual sins, including unnatural ones, inasmuch as such mate was put to death according to God's own instructions. Taking Jesus' words for what they mean, therefore, when a mate is guilty of such serious sexual immorality, the innocent mate may scripturally divorce such a one, if he or she so desires. One who obtains a divorce on such scriptural grounds is also scripturally free to remarry, not thereby being subject to a charge of adultery. This clearly marks a correction in the view expressed on previous occasions in the columns of this magazine, but faithful adherence to what the Scriptures actually say requires it. There is much more that can be considered on the matter, and for that reason it will be discussed more completely in a coming issue of the magazine. So basically, in January, they put out this wild new rule that says, hey, if someone is accused of homosexuality or bestiality, that's not grounds for a scriptural divorce, which means you can never go and remarry someone. You must remain celibate and single for the rest of your entire life. Obviously, that doesn't go over very well with the Jehovah's Witness community, and so they do a full 180. They say, this clearly marks a correction in the views expressed on previous occasions in the column of this magazine. So I found this completely fascinating that for this weird time, like this, if you were a witness in 1972 and you had been unfortunate enough to be married to someone that was a homosexual, but they were trying to keep up a false pretense, which is sad for both parties, by the way. And it's a problem because people should just do as they want as long as it's consensual. Hey, that's actually a pretty good term. Maybe we should just start calling it consensual. Anyway, so as long as it's consensual, then hey, let it ride. Do what you want. And you're not hurting anybody. But they have this weird time where if you were in 1972, you found this out, or even if someone was committing a crime and actually having sex with the family dog, you were stuck. You were going through the mental trauma of, wow, I was married to this criminal, and now I must remain celibate for the rest of my entire life. It really blew my mind when I came across this weird little time in Watchtower's history. So I wanted to bring that one up. And then I went down the rabbit hole of divorce in general. And some of Watchtower's rules on divorce are not okay. They're really, really, really not okay. And while this one in 1972, they made a rule that was ridiculous and then retracted it and went back on it, this next one that I'm going to bring up is them making a rule and then never updating it. And I assume it still stands today. So in a 1974 Watchtower, it's the November 15th, page 704. Watchtower has this to say about an example of a wife that finds herself in a situation where she is literally being raped. It says, circumstances could arise that would make lewd practices of a married person toward that one's marriage mate a scriptural basis for divorce. For example, a wife may do what she reasonably can to prevent her husband from forcing upon her perversions such as are carried on in a brothel. Yet, due to his greater strength, he might overpower her and use her for perverted sex, so as not to be prostituted in this way at another time. A Christian wife may decide to get a divorce. She could establish with the congregation that the real reason for this is porneia, and then proceed to get a legal divorce on any truthful grounds acceptable to the courts of the land. So basically they say, hey, if someone is forcing you, let's remember the word force here, to do sexual things. I'm assuming they're talking about oral sex or anal sex, right? And the wife doesn't like it. She doesn't want to do it. He's physically forcing her. Okay? First of all, the language they're using is wrong. I can solve the problem for Watchtower very clearly, or for the world very clearly. We don't need to use these terms get really foggy. Okay, two people are having sex. One of them is screaming, yes, 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 more, more, more. Okay? Okay? We call that consensual. Two people are having sex. Someone's screaming, no, stop, please, please, God, no, no, leave me alone, get off of me, stop, please, no, 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 no. That's what we call unconsensual or rape. Boom. So when it says, for example, a wife may do what she reasonably can to prevent her husband from forcing upon her perversions such are carried on in a brothel. Stop using all of those words. Say, if you are getting raped, go to the police. Go to the police. Like there's no reason to not. It's a crime. It's disgusting. And you have some measure of power and some recourse. You don't have to be in that situation. Sorry, I won't get too distracted here from the point. So in 1974, they have this thing where they say, hey, if this is happening to you, it's okay to divorce this slime ball. I don't know why they don't say, hey, this is a crime and this person should be in jail because they're a rapist and have to walk around with a tattoo on their forehead that says rapist. Wally's opinions. Anyway, next up we have a Watchtower in 1978. It's another questions from readers. It's the February 15th, page 31-32, and it says, what then of a situation where a married person, perhaps a wife, approaches a congregational elder with the complaint that her marriage mate is abusing her by forcing sexual practices upon her that she rejects as repugnant and perverted? Again, they use a lot of words there, but we'll simplify it. A congregation elder is approached by a woman that is being raped by her husband, and she's asking for help. How does the Watchtower say this? It says, approaches a congregation elder with the complaint. With the complaint. I don't know why we're diminishing the fact that this hypothetical woman is being raped. And she's seeking out help. She needs help. She needs protection. She needs advice. It's clearly going to be a very stressful situation and scary. It's crazy that they're like, well, she came to us with this complaint, as if it were like, oh, my husband doesn't take off his shoes when he comes in the house. That's a complaint. I'm actively being raped on a weekly basis by my husband. That's a crime. Just the language they use is all messed up, but this is even worse. If the marriage mate is willing to discuss the matter, the elder, possibly in company with another elder, can offer to try and help the couple to solve their problems, giving scriptural counsel. So their solution to someone coming to you for help for rape is to read them some scriptures. Let's just read from the Bible and hopefully things get better. I don't think I really need to say anything more about that. What if a married person claims that certain sexual practices of the marriage mate are sufficiently gross to come within the scope of the Greek term porneia as used at Matthew 19:19. As has been shown, the scriptures do not give specific information that allows for positive identification of certain sexual practices within marriage as being or not being porneia. It may be noted that the Greek term is drawn from a word having the basic meaning to sell, or to surrender, or give oneself up to. And thus porneia has the sense of a selling or a giving of oneself to lust or lewdness. If a married person believes that the sexual practices of the mate, though not involving someone outside the marriage, are nevertheless of such gross nature as to constitute a clear surrender to lewdness or debauching in lewdness, then that must be his or her own decision and responsibility. Basically, what this is saying is that it's reaffirming what was going on before. Hey, if there's a situation where someone is making you or forcing you to do things that you're not comfortable with sexually, that is your decision, and you do have a grounds for divorce, and you can get out of that situation and still continue to have a relationship with someone else, right? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Then in comes a 1983 Watchtower. March 15th, page 31, Honor Godly Marriage. And it has this to say. Thus, a mate's enforcing perverted acts such as oral or anal sex within the marriage would not constitute a scriptural basis for divorce that would free either for remarriage. Even though a believing mate is distressed by the situation, yet that one's endeavor to hold to scriptural principles will result in a blessing from Jehovah. In such cases, it may be helpful for the couple to discuss the problem frankly, bearing in mind especially that sexual relations should be honorable, wholesome, an expression of tender love. This certainly should exclude anything that might distress or harm one's mate. Yeah. So they use the word enforcing at the beginning there, right? Thus, a mate's enforcing perverted acts, such as oral or anal sex, within the marriage mate, would not constitute a scriptural basis for a divorce that would free either for remarriage. They are literally saying that if you are in a situation where you are actively being raped, again, enforcing perverted acts such as oral or anal sex. Okay, we can make it clear. Two people are having sex. They're saying yes. Two people are having sex. They're saying no. We can just draw a line right there and bada bing, bada boom. I mean, unless hey, I'm going to say no, but what I really mean is yes, unless that was somehow communicated, or I don't know, maybe you have some goofy fetish. All right, so now that we've cleaned up these lines between consensual and non-consensual, or sex and rape, just use these words. It will have a better message. I think it'll get it across more clearly to people's minds. But what they're saying is that if you leave someone that is raping you and forcing you to do sexual things that you are not okay with, you are on this side of the line saying, no, no. If you leave that person that is abusing you physically and mentally, you cannot get remarried to someone that will treat you with kindness. You cannot, according to Watchtower, carry on and move on with your life and get into another relationship. This is a problem because you could have a situation where someone is abusive, right? And again, this is a crime, by the way. So there's no wording here about how this is a crime. They only talk about it judicially. The Watchtower is classic in doing, what do we do judicially and what do we do in this situation? It's a crime. It's a fucking crime. Do something about it. Be part of the community that you want to live in. Do you want to live in a community where you have these fucking idiots that are criminals just running around doing as they please with no recourse whatsoever. Is that the community you want to live in? Okay, if you answered yes, then fuck you. And if you answered no, then fucking do something about it. It's not terribly complicated to say, this is a criminal act where someone is being hurt, and I could do something about it. But I'm just going to do what Watchtower. Just stop all that foolishness. It's really crazy. Okie dokie. So now moving on to another part of that same article. Here we go. It says, in some cases, there may be verbal and physical abuse, threats, and beatings. But does this mean that the Christian marriage mate should leave the unbeliever? Yes. 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 I think in cases where you're being verbally, physically abused, you're being threatened and beaten, is this a question? But does this mean that the Christian marriage mate should leave the unbeliever? That sentence should read, get the fuck out of that situation today. Get help now. You have resources. Whatever fears you have, I promise it will be better. Get out. Do it. Get out now. But no, they say the Apostle Paul counsels, quote, a wife should not depart from her husband, but if she should actually depart, let her remain unmarried, or else make up again with her husband. And a husband should not leave his wife, end quote. As Paul points out, preserving the marriage will be to the spiritual benefit of any children. In a practical way also, it may be to the material benefit of the believing parent and children. Still, in the event that abuse becomes unbearable, or life itself is endangered, the believing mate may choose to depart. But the endeavor should be to make up again in due course. However, departing does not of itself provide scriptural grounds for divorce and remarriage. Still, a legal divorce or legal separation may provide a measure of protection from further abuse. I guess we'll deconstruct some of those words here. The sentence that really stands out to me, and I think this might be the biggest whopper of this entire whole little weird scenario, is where it says, still in the event that abuse becomes unbearable. When you write that sentence, if the abuse becomes unbearable, I'm assuming what's going on in your mind is that you are thinking there are abuses that are bearable. There is a certain degree of abuse that you can take. I don't know how else to read that. Still, in the event that abuse becomes unbearable, may choose to depart. What Watchtower is suggesting is, hey, there's some abuse that is bearable. And as the Apostle Paul counseled, a wife should not depart from her husband. I don't know, man. This is just some of the more disgusting things that I guess I don't remember, or maybe it's just been so far removed from my brain that I just haven't thought about it in such a long time. But holy, this is so gross that Watchtower ever has put out material like this and never gone back to essentially say, hey, Yeah, that was really, really, really messed up and wrong. Sorry for everyone that took our advice. We are genuinely sorry, and what can we do to help the situation? And then, even if you, like I said before, even if you do get a legal separation or divorce, you can't move on with your life. You are forever tied to this person. So someone is abusing you, right? And you do get out because you did the right thing. In Watchtower's eyes, you are not allowed to ever have sex again unless you know for a certainty, or unless that other person admits to having committed adultery or remarries someone else, and then there's the assumption, right? What a position to be in. What a position to be in. What if this person is an actual, just complete psycho? Well, not act. What if they are? It is conceivable that they want to exercise this power over you. They want to have this control over you. Their actions, thusly, would have demonstrated that point. So now you get a legal divorce, and they can just sit there and be like, you know what? I'm never going to go to the elders. I'm never going to get remarried, and you will never be free of me. You will never be free of me. And it's not, the person's only able to do that because of Watchtower's rules. The Watchtower is forcing Jehovah's Witnesses into a position where you can have a controlling, egotistic, narcissistic criminal lord over an innocent victim. And they've put the rules in place so that way they can do that. Watchtower put the rules in place so that this power-hungry maniac can just go on controlling this person, and the victim is not able to move on with their life. They're not able to legally get remarried. Yikes. Another interesting aspect of this is, let's imagine a scenario where, okay, there is a divorce or a separation, but it's under fairly agreeable terms. It doesn't really specify, and this is from an 82 Watchtower 9.1, page 31. But it's asking the question, is it okay if, whenever the husband or the wife comes back and visits the family, is it okay to, have sex? Because you can't have sex with someone else unless someone says, oh, yes, I've committed adultery, or yes, I have actually slept with someone else other than you. So if two people go their separate ways, you have a scenario where you can't have sex with each other anymore because that's fornication and you'll get disfellowshipped. So one of the two people, even if it is, hey, let's just go our separate ways, this isn't working, we don't like each other, whatever it might be. If that happens, there's no way to have sex ever again. There's not a way to go about it, and you can't even get remarried. So one of them, basically, they have to get together and say, I guess rock, paper, scissors style, like, okay, well, one of us needs to bite the bullet. One of us needs to just take one for the team and say, okay, well, I guess I will admit to committing adultery. That way we can both get remarried, and then they get disfellowshipped. It's so bizarre. That is the dark world of Jehovah's Witnesses and divorce. They have some absolutely contemptible, harmful rules that I can only imagine have created just all kinds of problems for their people. It's really bizarre to me that they are so caught up in what a word in the Bible might mean. So in one instance, they're trying to figure out if masturbation is porneia. And then in another article, they're talking about how it has a root word that means to sell or prostituting yourself. So what goes on in those brothels? Well, that is what the Bible was talking about. The mental gymnastics and the effort that goes into understanding a single word in Greek, that maybe it just has multiple meanings. They put that much effort into something that doesn't matter. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter. Again, we fix the problem. Yes, no. You draw a line, and anything on that yes side, hey, let it run. Cool. Hey, it's your time. Do what you like. It's your time. As long as both parties can say yes. If both parties can say yes, cool. Well, there's an age thing, but we don't have to get into that. But if both are of legal age, legal age and sound in mind and can say yes, then hey, cool, let it ride. And if they say no, then it's a crime. Boom, solved. And they go through all of this effort to try and describe or figure out what a word means. And yet they're ignoring this problem that they've created, where victims have no way to move on with their lives. Victims don't have a way to say, you know what? Screw this. This person's a criminal. They need to go to jail, and I need to get out of here so I'm safe. I am not safe in my house. If you are uncomfortable around your partner, that's a problem. If you are uncomfortable with the thought of having sex with your partner, it is a problem. You need help, and there are resources out there to get it. So anyway, this is a very heavy subject. I think now that we've put this one out there, I might actually start doing some more of the difficult topics and do some research and kind of make some videos about some of the confusing changes and how those might have had some really horrible ramifications for Jehovah's Witnesses. So probably the next one will be maybe about one day it's okay to have a life-saving medical procedure, and one day it's not okay to have a life-saving medical procedure. Anyway, the list goes on and on and on and on. No wicked stunts for this one. I don't think it really calls for it, so we will just say goodbye and thank you for watching. Yeah.